Is history repeating itself? Or are we simply trapped in a cycle we never truly escaped? The world has seen its fair share of financial turmoil, but every time the warning signs appear, we seem caught off guard, as if the past has faded into irrelevance. Yet the echoes of previous debt crises are growing louder, reverberating through the corridors of power and the streets of everyday life. From the bustling streets of Colombo, where tuk-tuks weave through crowds, to the vast pampas of Argentina, where farmers watch the skies for rain and hope for better prices, a common thread binds nations seemingly worlds apart. In Karachi's markets, the hum of commerce is tinged with anxiety, while in Buenos Aires, the rhythm of daily life is punctuated by protests and uncertainty. These places, separated by oceans and continents, are now united by a shared vulnerability. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Argentina, and even the mighty US dollar are entangled in a complex web of debt, echoing financial crises of decades past. The headlines may change, but the underlying story remains eerily familiar. Mounting loans, spiraling inflation, and the ever-present shadow of default. International institutions like the IMF step in, but their remedies often come with strings attached, leaving ordinary people to bear the brunt of austerity. The global economy is once again teetering on the edge, and honestly, the similarities to previous meltdowns are impossible to ignore. Markets swing wildly, traders' faces etched with worry, and headlines scream of recession and collapse. Behind these numbers are real lives, families struggling to make ends meet, businesses shuttering, dreams put on hold. The sense of déjà vu is unmistakable, as if we are reliving a nightmare we never truly woke from. The recent turmoil in Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Argentina serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of economic stability. Food queues stretch longer, markets grow quieter, and the voices of protest grow louder. For millions, the crisis is not an abstract concept, but a daily struggle, one that tests resilience and hope. The pain is visible in the faces of those waiting for food, in the frustration of shopkeepers, and in the determination of protesters demanding change. These are not isolated incidents. They are part of a pattern that stretches across continents and decades, a pattern that experts warn could become even more pronounced as global challenges mount. The world watches, debates, and sometimes shrugs, but the consequences ripple far beyond national borders. They are symptoms of a deeper malaise plaguing developing nations, exacerbated by the policies of the world's most powerful economy, the United States. As the Federal Reserve raises interest rates and Wall Street chases profits, the ripple effects are felt most acutely in the world's poorest neighborhoods. The global financial system, designed to promote stability, too often leaves the vulnerable exposed. In this interconnected world, the fate of one nation can quickly become the fate of many. The question remains, will we finally learn from the echoes of debt crises past, or are we doomed to repeat them once more? Around the world, headlines scream of economic distress. Sri Lanka defaults on its debt, Pakistan seeks yet another IMF bailout, and Argentina battles relentless hyperinflation. These stories may seem distant, but they are urgent reminders of the fragility of economies in the developing world. Each headline is not just a statistic, it's a window into the daily struggles of millions of people whose lives have been upended by forces beyond their control. These are not mere financial statistics. They represent the shattered dreams and livelihoods of millions. Behind every number is a family forced to make impossible choices. Between food and medicine, between sending children to school or keeping them home to save money. The pain of economic collapse is felt most acutely by ordinary people, who bear the brunt of rising prices, job losses, and uncertainty about the future. In Sri Lanka, the economy has crumbled under the weight of unsustainable debt and mismanagement. Citizens wait in long lines for basic necessities like rice, milk, and fuel. Supermarket shelves are often empty, and protests fill the streets as people demand relief. The crisis has forced many to cut back on meals, sell possessions, or even leave the country in search of a better life. Pakistan, meanwhile, is grappling with dwindling foreign reserves and a currency in freefall. The government is locked in a desperate battle to avoid default, negotiating with international lenders for emergency funds. For ordinary Pakistanis, this means soaring prices for everyday goods, uncertainty about jobs, and a constant fear of what tomorrow might bring. In Argentina, economic turmoil is a recurring nightmare. The country is trapped in a cycle of debt and inflation that erodes savings and wages. Protests erupt as people demand action, but solutions remain elusive. For many Argentinians, the value of their money vanishes almost overnight, making it nearly impossible to plan for the future or escape poverty. The common denominator in these crises, a toxic cocktail of high debt levels, soaring inflation, and a strengthening US dollar. As global financial conditions tighten, vulnerable economies are pushed to the brink, exposing deep-rooted structural weaknesses. The ripple effects are felt far beyond borders, reminding us that in an interconnected world, economic instability anywhere can have consequences everywhere. To understand the present, we must look back to the 1980s. Under the leadership of Federal Reserve Chairman Paul Volcker, the US embarked on an aggressive campaign to tame inflation. Interest rates skyrocketed, sending the US dollar soaring. The consequences for developing countries were devastating. Many had borrowed heavily in US dollars during the 1970s, enticed by low interest rates. As the dollar surged, so did their debt burdens, triggering a wave of defaults across Latin America and Asia. Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina were among the hardest hit. Why does the US dollar hold such sway over the global economy? The answer lies in its status as the world's reserve currency. The dollar is the lubricant of international trade and finance. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, it creates a ripple effect across the globe. A stronger dollar makes it more expensive for developing countries to import essential goods like oil and food, often priced in dollars. It also increases the cost of servicing their dollar-denominated debts, pushing them closer to the brink. The Philippines and India too have felt the sting of past debt crises. These nations, vibrant and full of promise, have not been immune to the turbulence that global financial systems can bring. Their stories are reminders that even the most resilient societies can be shaken by economic storms that originate both at home and abroad. The Philippines, burdened by heavy borrowing in the 1970s, faced a severe crisis in the early 1980s. As global interest rates soared and foreign lenders grew wary, the country found itself unable to meet its debt obligations. Ordinary Filipinos felt the impact most acutely. Banks closed their doors, inflation soared, and jobs became scarce. The crisis led to years of economic hardship, forcing families to tighten their belts and rethink their futures. India's 1991 balance of payments crisis forced the nation to implement painful economic reforms. Foreign exchange reserves had dwindled to just a few weeks' worth of imports, and the country was on the brink of default. In response, the government took bold steps, devaluing the rupee, opening up the economy, and seeking assistance from the International Monetary Fund. These reforms, though difficult, laid the foundation for India's future growth and integration into the global economy. Both countries ultimately recovered, but, the scars of those crises remain. For many families, memories of lost savings, unemployment, and uncertainty linger to this day. The crises changed how people viewed their governments, their banks, and even their own financial decisions. They also fostered a sense of caution and resilience, shaping the way future generations approach economic challenges. These experiences underscore the vulnerability of developing countries to external shocks, particularly shifts in US monetary policy. When interest rates rise in the United States, capital often flows out of emerging markets, putting pressure on their currencies and economies. This interconnectedness means that decisions made in distant financial centers can have profound effects on millions of lives across the globe. They also highlight the importance of sound economic management and the need for a safety net in times of crisis. Governments must be prepared to act swiftly and decisively, building reserves and strengthening institutions to protect their people. For citizens, these lessons serve as a reminder to stay informed, plan ahead, and support policies that promote stability and growth. The journey through past crises has been difficult, but it has also made these nations stronger and more determined to build a secure future. While the current crisis echoes the turmoil of the 1980s, there are key differences. Many emerging markets, including India and the Philippines, have accumulated larger foreign exchange reserves and adopted more flexible exchange rates, providing a buffer against external shocks. However, the global landscape is far more complex today. The COVID-19 pandemic, geopolitical tensions, and supply chain disruptions have added new layers of vulnerability. The war in Ukraine, for instance, has sent shockwaves through global commodity markets, exacerbating inflationary pressures. How can we recognize the warning signs of an impending debt crisis? A rapid depreciation of the local currency against the US dollar is often the first indication. Dwindling foreign exchange reserves, rising bond yields, and growing political instability are all red flags. Early detection is key. Ignoring these warning signs can have dire consequences, as Sri Lanka's experience has shown. What lessons can be learned from these crises? For developing countries like India and the Philippines, maintaining prudent fiscal and external balances is paramount. Building up foreign exchange reserves provides a crucial cushion against external shocks. Diversifying exports and sources of financing reduces reliance on a single market or currency. Closely monitoring dollar-denominated debt exposure is essential, as is strengthening financial institutions and regulatory frameworks. The global economy is sailing in choppy waters. The current debt crises serve as a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global financial system and the outsized influence of US monetary policy. While the challenges are undeniable, they are not insurmountable. By heeding the lessons of the past and adopting sound economic policies, developing countries can navigate these turbulent waters and chart a course towards a more stable and prosperous future. Like and subscribe for more.